Glorb Zantex, Grand Champion of the Voscovian Empire and three-time winner of the Galactic Combat Tournament, stood tall well. He as tall as a Voscovian could stand with their naturally hunched posture and surveyed the pathetic specimen before him. The human female was small, fragile-looking, and utterly unremarkable. Her skin lacked the beautiful purple hue of superior Voscovian epidermis, her limbs were laughably thin without proper exoskeletal reinforcement, and her eyes only two of them. Ridiculous. This. Glorb pointed at the human with his primary right appendage, his voice carrying through the arena's amplification system. This is what Earth sends as their champion. A soft, pink, tiny thing with no extra arms. The crowd of various alien species roared with laughter. Some of the Jaxilians in the front row were laughing so hard their eye stalks were vibrating. The Dragonites were slapping their tails against the floor. Even the normally stoic quantum hive mind representatives were pulsating with what passed for amusement in their collective consciousness. The human Amara Jackson, according to the tournament registry, simply stood there, her face impassive. Glorb had studied the basic physiology of humans before the match, but he hadn't bothered with their psychological profiles. Why waste time? The Intergalactic Combat Committee had only recently allowed Earth to join after they'd achieved faster-than-light travel, and everyone knew it was merely a courtesy invitation. No one expected them to advance past the first round. Look at you, Glorb continued, circling the human slowly, his four legs making soft clicking sounds on the arena floor. No natural armor. No venomous glands. No regenerative capabilities. Your species barely figured out how to leave your solar system without blowing yourselves up. Do you know who I am, little human? Amara Jackson raised an eyebrow, just one, a curious facial movement that Glorb found oddly disconcerting. Yeah, you're the guy who's been talking for 3 minutes instead of fighting, she replied, her voice surprisingly steady. A ripple of surprised murmurs spread through the audience. Glorb felt his pride sacs inflate involuntarily. The audacity. I am Glorb Zantex, destroyer of the Crodian war fleet. I have crushed 18 different species in combat. My third pincer can tear through reinforced neutronium. My blood has. A high concentration of boring, Amara interrupted, examining her fingernails with exaggerated interest. Are we doing this or what? Glorb's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. Was this human mocking him? Did she not understand the honor system of pre-combat intimidation? Or was this some strange human psychological warfare? The Voscovian combat champion decided he'd had enough. With lightning speed, at least by the standards of most carbon-based lifeforms, he extended his front appendage and pointed directly at the human's face, so close that his razor-sharp talon nearly touched her nose. Look at this finger, human. This single digit has ended the careers of 47 champions. He clicked his mandibles in what his species recognized as peak intimidation. After I dismantle you for sport, I will use your bones as toothpicks. Then Glorb did what had become his signature pre-fight move. He threw back his armored head and laughed, a deep, resonant, multi-toned laugh that echoed throughout the arena. The crowd went wild. This was what they had come to see, the ceremonial mockery before the inevitable slaughter. What happened next would be replayed on every news feed across 17 galaxies for the next standard cycle. Amara Jackson didn't move her feet. She didn't lunge forward. She didn't even shift her weight. Her right hand simply moved in a blur, grabbing Glorb's extended appendage. Then came a twist, a sickening crunch, and an application of leverage that defied several known laws of physics. Glorb's mighty arm, the arm that had crushed Crodian battleships, that had torn through neutronium, bent at an angle that nature never intended. The sound that came from the Voscovian champion's mouthparts wasn't a laugh anymore. Jigiya Arahaja. Glorb's scream reached pitches that caused several crystalline beings in the audience to develop cracks. Oops, Amara said, releasing the now mangled limb. Guess I don't know my own strength in this gravity. Silence fell over the arena. Absolute, stunned silence. Did you all see that? The announcer, a floating gas-based entity named Glorb, finally broke the quiet, his voice wavering with disbelief. The human. She without even how. Glorb stumbled backward, his injured arm hanging uselessly. Pain signals overwhelmed his nervous system, but worse was the humiliation. No one had ever damaged him in the first moments of combat. This was unprecedented. This was embarrassing. Lucky move. He snarled, trying to regain his composure. But I have 3 more arms, human. And now I will not be merciful. Amara tilted her head. You were planning to be merciful before. Here, wouldn't have guessed from all the using my bones as toothpicks talk. In the VIP observation deck, Supreme Overlord Drax Zod of the Voskovian Empire watched with growing concern. Beside him, the newly appointed human ambassador, Marcus Wong, sipped calmly from a glass of Regelian firewater. Your champion seems unexpectedly competent, Drax Zod commented, trying to sound nonchalant despite the sweat now forming on his exoskeleton. Ambassador Wong nodded. Amara? Oh yeah, she's pretty good. Taught advanced hand-to-hand combat at our military academy for a while. Before that, she was a ballerina. A what? Ballerina? The Supreme Overlord's translator implant struggled with the unfamiliar term. Classical dancer, Wong explained. All about balance, strength, precision, holding positions that would break most humans. You know how it is. Drax Zod did not, in fact, know how it was. He stared at the human ambassador with growing unease, wondering what other details about humanity the Voskovian intelligence agencies had missed. Back on the arena floor, Glorb had recovered his fighting stance, compensating for his injured limb by lowering his center of gravity. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by cold fury. No primitive species would make a fool of him in front of the galactic community. Perhaps I underestimated you, human, he growled, beginning to circle her again. But let me educate you on Voskovian biology. We evolved on a high-gravity death world. Our exoskeletons can withstand pressures that would turn your soft body into paste. Our reflexes are tuned to predators that move faster than your eyes can track. And best of all. He suddenly lunged forward with blinding speed, his remaining 3 arms extended into deadly weapons. We can release toxins through our skin that paralyze most carbon-based lifeforms on contact. Amara sidestepped the attack with grace that seemed impossible for a creature from a low-gravity world. As Glorb's momentum carried him past her, she delivered a precise strike to the base of his neck, right where the nerve cluster that controlled his secondary motor functions was located. Glorb's back 2 legs immediately went numb and collapsed under him. Weird, Amara commented as the alien champion crashed to the ground with an undignified yelp. We call that a pressure point on Earth. Guess some things are universal. The crowd gasped collectively. In the stands, a Zorlaxian information broker was frantically recording everything, already calculating how much the fighting academies across the galaxy would pay for footage of this human's techniques. Impossible. Glorb roared, struggling to regain his footing with only 2 functioning legs. How do you know Voskovian weak points? Our physiology is classified imperial information. Amara shrugged. I studied xenobiology textbooks on the way here. Your species isn't as mysterious as you think. Also, you've got a very obvious twitch right before you attack. Kind of hard to miss. In the royal box, Supreme Overlord Drax Zod turned to Ambassador Wong with growing alarm. Your people studied our classified biology. That's espionage. Wong took another sip of his drink. Not really. We bought the textbook on the Galactic net. Cost like 12 credits. Your own universities publish them. Besides, we're just trying to be prepared. Michaon? Boum. You know how it is, being the new kids on the Galactic block and all. The Supreme Overlord made a mental note to have his entire educational ministry executed upon his return to the homeworld. Meanwhile, Glorb had managed to right himself and was now circling more cautiously. His initial arrogance had evaporated, replaced by genuine wariness. The human wasn't just lucky, she was skilled, dangerously so. I see I must take you seriously after all, Glorb said, his voice lower now. Very well. No more games. No more showmanship for the crowd. Now you face the true power of a Voskovian war champion. The plates on Glorb's back suddenly shifted, revealing hidden respiratory vents. His body began to expand slightly as he took in massive amounts of oxygen. Every experienced spectator recognized what was coming: Glorb's infamous pressure wave attack, a technique that used specialized lung sacs to create a concussive blast of air that had been known to shatter bones from 3 meters away. "Oh no, oxygen," Amara said dryly. "My one weakness." "How did you know?" Several alien spectators, who understood human sarcasm, chuckled nervously. The rest watched in horrified anticipation. Surely the small human couldn't withstand Glorb's signature move. With a thunderous roar, Glorb released the pressure wave. The blast was visible as a rippling distortion in the air, racing toward Amara with deadly force. What happened next defied explanation by any known physical laws, at least according to the bewildered scientists watching from various research institutions across the galaxy. Amara didn't dodge. She didn't dive out of the way. Instead, she took a single deep breath, planted her feet firmly, and shifted something in her stance. When the pressure wave hit her, it simply flowed around her, like water around a perfectly shaped stone. In the sudden silence that followed this impossible feat, Amara's voice carried clearly through the arena. "Interesting technique. On Earth, we call it a really big burp." The audience exploded, some with laughter, others with shocked exclamations in various alien languages. Several religious sects immediately began proclaiming the human as either a prophesied destroyer or savior, depending on their theological inclinations. Glorb stood frozen, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "That not how?" "Breath control," Amara replied casually. "Plus a little trick about redirecting energy that martial artists on Earth have known for a few thousand years. Nothing special." In the observation deck, Supreme Overlord Zod was now sweating profusely. "A few thousand years? Your species has practiced combat arts for millennia?" Ambassador Wong nodded. "Oh sure, probably one of our oldest cultural practices actually. We've been finding new ways to fight each other since before we invented writing. You know how it is." Zod did not, in fact, know how it was. And he was beginning to think that perhaps the Voscovian Empire had made a grave miscalculation in underestimating these humans. Back on the arena floor, Glorb was becoming desperate. His legendary arm was broken. His signature attack had failed. And worst of all, this pink, soft creature from a backwater planet was making him look like a fool. Enough tricks. He snarled, dropping to all fours, well, all threes, given his injured arm. "Let's see how you handle raw Voscovian strength." He charged directly at Amara, his remaining functional arms extended to grab her, his armored head lowered like a battering ram. It was a primitive attack, lacking finesse, but Glorb was banking on his superior mass and the natural weapons of his species. Amara waited until the last possible moment before stepping slightly to the side and extending her foot, just enough to catch Glorb's forward momentum. Physics did the rest. The mighty champion of the Voscovian Empire, terror of 17 star systems, went tumbling across the arena floor like a drunk Flerbarian on ice skates. He crashed into the protective barrier with enough force to crack the reinforced material. As the stunned audience watched, Amara Jackson calmly walked over to where Glorb lay in a disoriented heap. "She hadn't even broken a sweat. You know," Amara said, looking down at the day's champion. "Back on Earth, we have this concept called trash talk. It's when you insult your opponent before or during a fight. But the key thing about trash talk is that you need to back it up." She crouched down to eye level with Glorb. "Otherwise, you just look silly." Glorb tried to scramble away, but his neural systems were still misfiring from the impact. "This is impossible. Humans are supposed to be weak. Your planet has low gravity. Your bodies are fragile," the intelligence report said. "Yeah, about those reports," Amara interrupted. "Did they mention we evolved on a death world too? Predators everywhere. Extreme temperature variations, natural disasters. Bacteria and viruses constantly trying to kill us. We survived all that without exoskeletons or extra arms or fancy toxin glands." From the observation deck, Ambassador Wong smiled as he watched the realization spreading through the alien dignitaries. Several were frantically sending communications to their homeworlds. A few looked like they might be sick. "Oh, and another thing your reports probably missed," Wong said conversationally to Supreme Overlord Zod. "Humans are the only known species to practice combat as recreation. We fight for fun. We have entire industries built around it. The Supreme Overlord's eye stalks quivered in horror. For fun? Absolutely. Boxing, wrestling, mixed martial arts, fencing, dozens of fighting styles, each with their own tournaments and champions. Amara down there? She's actually just an amateur enthusiast. Our real combat specialists are much more, let's say, dedicated. Drax-Zod suddenly felt very cold. If she's an amateur, why send her as your champion? Wong shrugged. She volunteered, said she wanted to see the galaxy. Plus, she had vacation time saved up from her day job. Her day job? She designs children's toys. On the arena floor, Glorb had finally managed to get back to his feet. His pride was shattered, but he was still a Voskovian warrior. He would not surrender, even in the face of this inexplicable human. I am still standing, human, he hissed, his voice now laced with genuine hatred rather than theatrical intimidation. And I will not yield. Amara nodded, seeming to respect his determination if not his wisdom. Fair enough. How about we finish this properly then? No more games. Glorb had one final trick, his species' most desperate natural defense mechanism. Voskovians could supercharge their neural pathways, temporarily boosting their reflexes and strength to extraordinary levels. It came at a cost, days of painful recovery afterward, but it had saved his life twice before in the arena. Without warning, Glorb's body began to vibrate. His exoskeleton took on a faint bluish glow as bioelectric energy surged through his system. His remaining functional limbs moved with newfound speed as he launched into a flurry of attacks. For the first time in the match, Amara seemed genuinely challenged. She blocked, dodged, and countered with impressive skill, but Glorb's enhanced speed was forcing her to work harder. Now who's laughing? Glorb snarled between strikes, his movements almost too fast for the audience to follow. Still not you, Amara replied, a thin sheen of sweat finally appearing on her forehead as she narrowly avoided a slash that would have opened her throat. In the stands, the various alien species watched in fascination. What had started as an expected slaughter had turned into something unprecedented, a genuine contest. Gambling networks across the galaxy were crashing from the sudden volume of bets being placed. I confess I'm surprised, Ambassador Wong said to the Supreme Overlord as they watched the furious exchange below. Your champion is quite resourceful. Drax-Zod puffed up slightly at the compliment. Glorb is the pride of our military. The neural supercharge is a technique only 1 in 10,000 Voskovians can survive. Wong nodded thoughtfully. Interesting biological adaptation. We have something similar on Earth, though. We call it an adrenaline rush. Mothers have been known to lift vehicles off their trapped children. Ordinary people performing extraordinary feats in moments of crisis. Are you saying all humans can do this? The Supreme Overlord's voice was barely a whisper now. Wong sipped his drink. Pretty much. Not all choose to develop the ability, of course. Most are content with normal lives. But the potential? It's there in most of us. Down in the arena, Glorb's supercharged state was beginning to show its limitations. His movements, while still incredibly fast, were becoming less coordinated. The toll on his system was mounting. Amara, meanwhile, had settled into a rhythm. She was no longer merely defending, she was studying, adapting. Each exchange taught her more about her opponent's patterns. Her eyes tracked Glorb's movements with calculated precision. You're slowing down, she observed during a brief pause as they circled each other. That neural boost has a time limit, doesn't it? Glorb hissed in frustration. She was right, of course. Already he could feel the energy draining from his limbs, the painful backlash beginning to creep through his nervous system. It doesn't matter, he growled. I only need a few more seconds to finish you. He launched himself forward in one final desperate attack, all his remaining strength channeled into a strike that could shatter reinforced hull plating. Time seemed to slow for everyone watching. Glorb's attack was perfect, the culmination of decades of training and natural Voskovian combat instincts. It should have been unstoppable, but Amara had been waiting for exactly this moment. As Glorb committed fully to his attack, she pivoted slightly on the ball of her foot. Her body seemed to flow like water, redirecting rather than opposing the force coming toward her. She caught Glorb's arm at precisely the right angle, adding her own energy to his momentum. Suddenly, the Voscovian champion found himself airborne, his own strength and speed turned against him. The impact when he hit the ground was spectacular. The arena floor actually cracked under the force. Glorb lay sprawled, his neural supercharge fizzling out in random sparks across his exoskeleton. That, Amara said quietly as she stood over him, was a basic judo throw. Developed on Earth around the 1880s. Kids learn it in their first year of training. The arena was absolutely silent. "Do you yield?" Amara asked, her voice carrying in the quiet. Glorb tried to move, but his body refused to cooperate. The pain from the neural backlash combined with his injuries left him immobilized. His voice was barely audible when he finally responded, "I yield." The silence shattered as the audience erupted. Some cheered, others booed, many simply made noises of astonishment in their native vocal patterns. History had been made. A human, a representative of the galaxy's newest spacefaring species, had defeated the reigning champion in hand-to-hand combat. In the official broadcast booth, the commentators were beside themselves. "Unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented," exclaimed Zorb Quantum, the seven-armed sports analyst. "In my 300 cycles of covering the Galactic combat tournament, I've never seen anything like this." His co-commentator, a gelatinous intelligence named Blubber, vibrated with excitement. "The implications for the Galactic rankings are enormous. Humanity will skip at least 30 places in the civilization hierarchy after this victory." As medical drones rushed onto the arena floor to tend to the defeated Glorb, Ambassador Wong turned to Supreme Overlord Drax Zod with a polite smile. "Well, that was entertaining. Now, about those trade agreements we were discussing earlier." The Supreme Overlord stared at him with new understanding. "You planned this whole demonstration. It wasn't just about the tournament." Wong's smile didn't waver. "I have no idea what you mean. Amara simply volunteered for a sporting event. Pure coincidence that it happened right before our negotiations over access to the Voscovian dilithium mines." "A coincidence," Drax Zod repeated flatly, not believing it for a second. Of course, Wong continued smoothly. "Just like it's a coincidence that our next exhibition match is against the Tellurian Empire, right before we discuss passage rights through their wormhole network." A cold sensation spread through the Supreme Overlord's primary nervous system. The humans weren't just physically dangerous, they were calculating. Strategic. "We should return to the negotiation table," he said quickly. "I believe the original terms you proposed were quite reasonable after all." "Glad to hear it," Wong replied cheerfully. Meanwhile, Amara had reached the exit tunnel from the arena. A Galactic tournament official was waiting for her, a datapad in his tentacles. "Most impressive, human Amara," the official burbled through his translator. "The tournament committee requests the honor of recording your combat techniques for the official archives. Such knowledge would greatly benefit all competing species." Amara smiled. "Oh, that was just basic stuff, entry level really. If you want to see real human fighting techniques, you should talk to our actual martial arts masters." The official's eye stalks quivered with excitement. "There are more advanced techniques than what you demonstrated today." "Absolutely. What I showed was maybe 10% of what an expert knows. If that." The official almost dropped his datapad. 10%? Only 10%? Amara nodded. "Give or take. Every region on Earth has their own fighting styles, developed over thousands of years. Some focus on strikes, others on grappling, some on weapons. I've studied a few, but nobody masters them all." As she walked away, leaving the stunned official behind, Amara allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. The truth was, she had trained extensively. She held black belts in 3 different martial arts and had competed internationally before joining the space program. But the alien didn't need to know that. Let them wonder just how formidable humanity's real warriors might be. 3 days later, in a secure communication chamber aboard the human diplomatic vessel, Amara sat across from Ambassador Wong. "Mission accomplished," Wong said, sliding a data tablet across the table. "The Voscovians have agreed to all our terms, plus they're throwing in exclusive mining rights to their moon bases." Amara scrolled through the agreement details. "Not bad. And the Tellurians? They've requested to reschedule our negotiations to next week." Apparently, they're reassessing their strategic position vis-a-vis humanity. Their champion has also mysteriously come down with a case of sporadic molting syndrome and won't be able to compete. Convenient, Amara remarked dryly. Wong leaned back in his chair. The Galactic Council has also extended an invitation for Earth to join 3 additional committees. It seems your little demonstration has accelerated our integration into the interstellar community. Just doing my part for humanity, Amara said with a smile. So what's next? The Draconian Imperium has been making noise about human expansion into the Orion Spur. They've specifically mentioned restricting our colony ships. Let me guess, Amara said. They have a champion too. 7-time winner of the Acid Pit Survival Challenge, Wong confirmed. 4 arms, venomous spines, regenerative capabilities, supposedly undefeated. Amara cracked her knuckles thoughtfully. Sounds fun. When do we leave? Tomorrow morning. Oh, and Amara. This time try not to embarrass them quite so thoroughly. We do need to maintain some diplomatic relations. No promises, she replied with a grin. But I'll try to let them keep at least a little dignity. As Amara left the room, Wong turned to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. Humanity had spent millennia fighting amongst themselves, developing countless ways to defeat opponents stronger, faster, and better armed than themselves. Now those same skills were proving unexpectedly valuable in securing humanity's place among the stars. The irony, he murmured to himself. All those centuries of warfare, preparing us for peace. Across the galaxy, footage of Amara's victory continued to spread. In military academies on 100 worlds, instructors were frantically revising their tactical doctrines. In diplomatic offices, policies regarding the human situation were being urgently updated. And on countless alien worlds, a new phrase was entering the local lexicon, a term that would soon be recognized in every corner of the galaxy. Never underestimate a human. Glorb Zantex, recovering in a medical facility on his homeworld, watched the footage of his defeat for the 100th time. His physicians had recommended he stop, claiming it was hampering his recovery, but he couldn't tear himself away. There had to be a trick. Some technology the human had concealed. Some explanation beyond the obvious that he, Glorb Zantex, pride of the Voscovian Empire, had simply been outmatched by a species that had only recently discovered how to leave their own planet. Computer, he said, his voice still raspy from his injuries, play it again. Slow motion, focus on her footwork. As the footage began again, Glorb leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowed in concentration. One day, he promised himself, there would be a rematch. And next time he would be prepared for the deceptively dangerous humans and their ancient fighting arts. But deep down, a part of him already knew the truth, a truth that the rest of the galaxy was rapidly coming to accept. Humanity had spent its entire history preparing for this moment without even realizing it. Every conflict, every war, every hand-to-hand combat technique developed over thousands of years had honed them into perfect warriors. The humans hadn't just arrived on the galactic stage, they had exploded onto it. And the galaxy would never be the same again.